the overseas inspection validation process. This process allows us to kind of audit inspections that were done in Taiwan before material was shipped out. And the mission really is to just make sure that the material that you've received and are inspecting is from the slot and is in the same condition as already been inspected and approved. So what we're really doing is auditing the inspection that happened, not re-inspecting the same part. So to go through this process, we're going to look at the how to read the vessel log portal in P21 to see what containers are on the water heading to your location, so you can be prepared, how you can access the inspection records that have already been completed in those parts, how you should review them, how you're going to use them, and the parts that you received to validate that the inspection was correct and that the parts truly are conforming. We're going to talk about how we save the inspection record, and then if we have any issues that we need to resolve based on the inspection that you do, we're going to look at those. So let's off in P21, looking at the log. So if we go into the portal's view, vessel log, this shows us all the that are on the water at any one point. Shows what parts are on each individual container, the quantities, and also the estimated arrival date of those parts at your warehouse. If you look at location, you'll see that number 1 represents containers that are heading to the US or AGWAM. If we scroll down, we're going to find containers that are going to location 3, which would be Mexico, and location 2, which is Valcor, Canada. When we have containers going to Querétaro, Mexico, they will be going to location 10, and when they're going to Rovaniemi, Finland, they're going to be location 11. So you can quickly filter this portal view to see which containers are heading to your specific satellite location. So let's have this container that's going to Juarez, GATU 1089270. Go to computer, go on to the inspect drive, the iDrive. I click on action reports. You see that there are some folders that are organized by container names. And the file format is always the same. It will be the date in US format and container name. So we were interested in this container here, 1089270. Here it is. So if we open this up, this folder contains all the inspection reports that Daniel has done in Taiwan. I know it's Daniel because it has TW at the end of the file name of the inspection report. So these are all the inspections that Daniel did of these parts that are in this container. Say we've just received this part, 6C20 MBF 8Y. We just received it, and we want to inspect it so we can put it away in our warehouse. It's a little bit easier to read. So we have an inspection report, Daniel, completed November 15th. It's telling me what the part is. It's an M6x20 hex flange bolt. So what we want to do first is make sure that the nation of the part number, the manufacturer's lot number, and the PO are the parts that I'm looking at that I've just received. So I'm looking at the label of the parts in their cartons to make sure the part number, the manufacturer's lot number, and also the packing list and the invoice contain this purchase order. Just make sure that the parts I'm looking at are also the parts that Daniel inspected to make sure that everything lines up. Up here in the top right corner for any non-conformance history of this part, If there's been an issue with this part before, either with a customer complaint or an inspection failure, this is going to tell me what failed, and this is where I'm going to focus, especially to make sure that Daniel looked at it when he did his inspection, and I'm going to look at it as well, because we don't want the same issue reoccurring and getting to the customer. So this kind of focuses our attention. We're going to be interested in this field up here. If this part was a PPAP level 3, we would have the approved vendors, the approved manufacturers in this cell here, and we have to make sure that the parts we received are from an approved vendor. And if they're not from an approved vendor, we're going to have to put that material into the disqualification until we can submit a PPAP submission to the customer and get them to approve the new manufacturer. In this case, this is simply a DIN part, so it's a PPAP level 4, so it's not applicable. On the review, and you just want to make sure that Daniel has inspected every feature and make sure everything is a pass. So everything is looking good. Everything's looking good. This one, it looks like Daniel didn't inspect the width across the corners caliper. So we want to check that just to verify it. You know, the width across the flats are conforming, but we want just to make sure it's a pass. Everything else is a pass, and it's accepted Daniel, and everything looks good. So we've performed our review. What we're going to do is we're going to pull 12 pieces from at least 3 random boxes that we've received. And for the burrs and threads, and for the material, I'm going to look at those 12 pieces and just make sure that everything is conforming. So don't have any burrs. In the case of a hex flange bolt, making sure that it is stamped 8.8 and that the plating is zinc and yellow. I'm also look at the picture on sheet 3. This is a picture that Daniel took of the parts when he inspected them on November 15th, and I'm going to verify that everything is consistent with these photos, that they don't have any burrs and everything looks good. So that looks good. So next, out of the 12 pieces that I've pulled, I'm going to look at 2 of them. I'm just going to check each of the features that Daniel checked, but I'm not going to be looking at the tolerance comes from the standard, because we're not going to be inspecting these parts. What we're doing is we're auditing what Daniel did. So look over here, a pink and a yellow cell here. For the length, Daniel's minimum measurement was 19.82. Measured that with sample number 4, and his maximum length was 20.09. Measured that with sample number 2. So with 2 pieces out of the 12 pieces that we've retained, we'll just verify that we can get similar results to the min and max of what Daniel got. And if we're within that kind of range, we're going to be satisfied that Daniel inspected these parts correctly, and we're satisfied that they're conforming. If for some reason we're getting different measurements, here the maximum is 20.42, and I start measuring 20.3. That's a lot higher than Daniel's measured with his parts. So I probably want to do a few more samples just to be satisfied that even though my results are different from Daniel's, they are still conforming, and I'm okay letting the lot go through. I'm going to look at each of these features to make sure, 2 pieces from each of these features to make sure they're good. With this feature, the width across the corners, I'm going to actually measure 12 pieces just to be satisfied that everything has passed. So all we're doing is we're verifying that the measurements we take with 2 pieces are consistent with Daniel's results. We're not concerned about what the allowable tolerance is per the standard or the drawing. We're just auditing what Daniel did. We're just trying to do a very quick process that we're confident to move on. With feature that we check, we're just going to quickly sign off on it. We're going to put our initial, and then we're going to put today's date. That looks fine. and get to a cell like one where I put in my signature, my initials. It went to a fail because it's looking at this number and it doesn't recognize it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a phrase right there to pass. So I do all the features. Measure pieces there, but they're going to be passing. So I've audited what Daniel's done, and I'm satisfied that everything is good. And I've put my initials and the date that I did the inspection for future reference. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Save As, and I'm just going to simply save the file in the location that it lives, and it lives in this container location. So if we have any issues with this part in the future, we have this record that we can pull up. We can see how Daniel inspected it, what the tolerances were. We inspected it, but we also have the verification that when it was received and inspected, and that our inspector verified that everything was good. So that's, that's if everything is good, everything makes sense, and you don't have any issues with the parts. Issues we could have are if the labeling and the work aren't consistent. There's an issue with the part number, if there's an issue with a lot number or a purchase order. What you can do is you can add a note, and number was A1908004-2, not 1, and just make a notification that there was an anomaly there. Also, if this was Cat 3 and it wasn't an approved vendor, we want to put from non-approved vendor. And then you're going to save this file as before, to make sure that all the features are conforming, that there aren't any other issues. And then you email the quality manager and just say, hey, can you please look at this inspection report? I had this issue. And then give you a disposition whether to put the material into quarantine or whether the inspection report needs to be updated. Maybe the manufacturer has been approved and the inspection report has not been correctly updated. If when the inspections you find parts with bursts or bad plating or a dimension that isn't conforming, that's an automatic fail. You're going to be putting those parts into quarantine, and you're going to be following the DMR process like you typically would. Expectation is that these parts have already been inspected and approved by Daniel. So make sure if you're going to write up a DMR that you're correctly measuring the parts with the tools and you're confident with your measurements. And then include the inspection report in the DMR. If you have any questions, please just call James. But this is how we audit the overseas inspection reports. So we've discussed that what we're trying to do is audit, not respect the parts. We looked at how we use the vessel log to see what parts were coming and organize ourselves. I showed how the inspection reports are organized by container in Inspection Drive. We talked about first we review the inspection record. We make sure that the part number, the labels, the purchase order, the packing list are all consistent with the non-conformance history of the part to see if we need to pay special attention to any features on the part. We look at if the part is PPAP level 3, whether we're receiving material from an approved vendor, and if not, that we need the material in quarantine until we submit a PPAP. And then we talked about how we validate the inspection that's already been done. We just look at the min and max measurements that Daniel has already made, and make sure that we're getting results that are consistent with those results. And if not, we're increasing the setting size to make sure that the lot is conforming per the standard or per the drawing. We put our initials and our date. Remember to put the parentheses so that everything says pass instead of fail. And then we're just simply saving the file. We don't have to do save as. We just save the file with the same file name. And if there are any issues in terms of the P level or the purchase order or packing list, you're emailing the quality manager. If there are non-conformance, you follow the DMR process. Any questions, just let me know. Thank you.